Hello, Instagram family and Amy Rushworth Show podcast family. I'm recording this live video for both. So wherever you're tuning in from, hello. Welcome, Insta family, podcast family. Very excited to have this conversation with you. Let me know where you're joining from. If you're jumping in on Instagram live with me, I would love to connect with you and feel you and know where you are in the world. And this conversation is going to be centered around what I've named it as, which is more money won't make you feel more confident, but it's going to be a bigger conversation around the observations that I have around certain behaviors, patterns, ways of being that are very prevalent in the coaching and the spiritual entrepreneurship industry. And what I'm going to say might activate you. Some of it might be hard to hear, but I want you to know that it's coming from the deepest space of love and good intentions for you. I don't want to just tell you what you want to hear. I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to show you a more empowering way for you to go forward, to feel confident, to do your soul work in the world. And so as a projector, it is my job to share my bird's eye observations and point out the blind spots and help you to do things in a more healthy way. Okay, so let's see, we've got someone joining in Spain, France. Amazing. So if you're just jumping on, let me know where you're joining from, say hello, and feel free to ask me questions and co-create this conversation with me. So I want to tell you a personal story that has inspired this observation and this share. I have been in business for quite a few years now, 7 to 8 years at present. And throughout my time in business and being someone who's visible online, I've created a lot of success. In the first few years of my business, I blew myself away. I hit goals that I thought were 10-year goals. They were happening at lightning speed. I was making a ton of money. I had many, many people joining my programs. I've now taught more than 4,301 students through my programs and classes, which is pretty crazy. But something that I was unconsciously doing or believing in the early years of my business was thinking that a certain level of success or a certain level of money or a certain level of praise, smashing my goals, getting all this external validation was going to make me feel really confident. I thought once I get here, or once I hit 100K month, or once I cross $1 million in revenue, then I'm going to be unshakable. Then I'm going to know that I've arrived. Then I'm going to know that I've made it. And then nothing bad's going to happen. And it's so funny in hindsight to observe this in myself, because this is literally the antithesis of what I teach, which is helping women to unshackle themselves from perfectionism and imposter syndrome and helping them to become really rock solid and unshakable in their confidence. And that's an inner thing, not I'm going to achieve all this shit externally and then I'm going to feel that way inside. And so I was unconsciously doing this for a while, not realizing I was doing it. And it became really fucking obvious to me, because after I hit probably the most successful time in my career and my business, where I had thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, I crossed 7 figures in my business. I had more people joining my programs and praising me than ever. This is when my imposter syndrome and what I call the great dissolving of 2022 came into being, right? So I had all the proof of like, yes, you've made it. I had all the proof of yes, you've got all this evidence that you're good at what you do, people love it, and that's when I was feeling most unsafe to share my voice. What I had gotten somewhat caught up in, and this is also the elephant in the room that I want to name, is I had gotten caught up in this culture in the coaching industry of thinking the more money you make, the more powerful you are. And that sounds so ridiculous to me now, but that's what I was somewhat unconsciously operating in. This belief system that if I can just make it to this level, then I'll be powerful. And that in itself is a scarcity mindset. That in itself is against what I teach and what I also believe in. But I was doing this unconsciously, and I now see many people in the industry doing this as well, where they outsource their power to the richest business coach in the room or in Instagram. And they think, if I can just learn how she does it and get all these things that she's got, then I'll feel like I'm good at what I do. Then I'll feel like what I have to say matters. If this many people join my program, then I'll know that I'm okay. Then I'll feel safe. And it's true that, of course, a certain amount of financial stability, money, wealth, can make you or can bring you a certain amount of physical security in your life. Absolutely. Money allows you to maybe rest more, to provide for yourself, to have all your needs met, which allows your nervous system to relax, and then you can do all the amazing things that you desire to do. There is some truth in that, but it is not the truth. It is not the only truth, because I know that because I had more money than I'd ever had in my life and more money than I'd ever dreamed of having. You know, there were days in my business where I have earned more in one day than I had earned in a whole year in my former career. And I still felt a sense of unease inside of me. And I was still waiting for the next thing or the next thing to validate that I was enough, that I had made it, that it was safe to take a deep fucking breath and just be where it was. And it's humbling to admit that, but I'm a 3/5 projector in human design. And so my wisdom and I guess my leading edge and part of my medicine for other people is being really fucking vulnerable and sharing not only the amazing things, but also the mess and the trials and tribulations. And I learn so much and get so much value and abundance out of those trials and tribulations. And so now I feel like it's my duty and it's my honor to be able to offer the lessons of this to you, and to say that no amount of money, no amount of success, no amount of acclaim or how popular you become in the entrepreneurial world is going to make up for that restless void inside of you. Because that is an inner experience. That is an inner place inside of you that needs inner healing, not more. There are also a lot of people in the self-help world who are obsessed with manifesting, and I love manifestation, so I'm not knocking it, but I really see this huge focus on trying to get more. It's like we're trying to fill our life with more. And why are we doing that? Well, maybe it's because there's a part of us that feels like we're not enough, or we're trying to escape from looking at something that's beneath the surface. And so what I've personally found to be extremely important and medicinal and sacred in the manifestation process is the emptying as well, in order to create space for your next level, for the next season of you, for the things that you want to call in, instead of just frantically trying to put more, get more. It's like, what are we also detoxing? What are we also emptying from our consciousness, from our lives? Instead of just always being on this treadmill to get something else, to add something else to the bucket of things that make us feel significant. Maybe for many people, manifestation is a distraction from a feeling inside where deep down you don't feel significant or enough as you are. So I think manifestation is great, but we as spiritual people, as leaders, and as teachers of these kinds of work also need to be looking at how are we leading back to ourselves or leading other people back to themselves rather than leading them or teaching them to just need to add more all the time. Because it essentially comes from a feeling that you're not already enough. And so I started examining this in myself and how it was presenting for me, which is how I see it presenting for a lot of other people, is through imposter syndrome that didn't look like imposter syndrome. So like I've shared, and you probably know, I work with a lot of my clients on things like imposter syndrome. So I know imposter syndrome, but I wasn't fully aware that what I was going through was imposter syndrome because it was showing up in sneaky ways. I had different ways of seeing it or labeling it at that point. So it didn't appear in my brain or in my body like, hey, it's me, you're an imposter, we're having an imposter syndrome moment. It felt more like, oh my God, I need to get more people in my programs, and ignoring the fact that there was so many people already joining. Or it looked like really sneakily comparing myself to other people, where I'd be like, I'm not comparing myself to anyone. I don't compete. But then I was sort of almost like finding myself wanting to morph into someone else or be like, oh, how did she do it? Maybe I should do it that way, rather than listening to my own inner knowing and my own intuition. And this was happening really sneakily. So when I finally realized it, it kind of smacked me in the face and threw me for six. And I really took a big step back for almost all of last year to really examine this inside of myself. And this was really hard for me to do because, it took me the whole year. And that meant that as part of my integrity and my embodiment, I didn't really launch anything last year. I didn't sell anything. I didn't keep putting my energy outwards into my audience, into my community, because I was fully focused on being in full integrity inside of myself. And as a result of that, I watched my revenue go way down. I watched my money go way down to the lowest it's ever been for years. And I watched my ego lose its shit, right? And I kind of laughed, but it also kind of felt like, oh my God, am I crazy? But it was very important for me to slow down and to take this step back and to really deeply address the imposter syndrome and the ways that that pattern was showing up in my behavior and my perception. Because how I feel inside and how I lead myself and how I embody my own inner work sets the tone and sets the energetics for the spaces that I hold. And I'm not someone who can ever teach something that I'm not embodied in, that I haven't experienced myself. I really am deeply committed to that first and foremost with my work. And so I really had to take that step back and let my ego cry that all the money was going out the window and worrying that people would forget about me because I wasn't keeping up with the pace of this industry. So I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. I've got some notes because I want to leave no stone unturned, but I really want you to think about this and maybe examine for yourself if this is showing up in any way for you, whether it's with money, milestones with your business, with how you use your voice, with the goals that you set, the way that you're leading yourself with your clients, with your content, your marketing, really just looking for this stuff inside of yourself. Because if you are a leader, if you are a teacher, if you are a coach, your number one job is to lead the way, to pioneer the way yourself with your own inner work, so that you can go into a field, into a space with your clients knowing I'm in full integrity. That actually is medicine for the inner imposter, because I've done the inner work. I do deserve to teach this because I fucking live and breathe this and embody this myself. So I want you to just keep this in mind, breathe deeply into your body as you listen, and just know that The only intention of what I'm sharing in this transmission is to give you a perspective shift, to help you, to illuminate something for you. And it's really fucking courageous to look at this stuff and to ask yourself these deeper questions. So just know you're amazing, even if some of it feels kind of activating. So let's talk about what imposter syndrome really is from a few different angles. Imposter syndrome is genuinely or generally described as a sort of feeling of inadequacy despite the evidence and the proof to the contrary, despite the evidence of continual success. Immediately you can see this and track this in the story I just told you. This happened for me when I had the most proof ever, when I'd just crossed 7 figures, when I'd had the most people ever in my programs, the most testimonials, the most praise, and I felt the most on fire and in charge in my life just before this great dissolving occurred. Okay. So part of how imposter syndrome can also show up is feeling like you're a fraud or you'll be exposed, thinking that you got to where you are by luck. It can also be that feeling of like, this is too much success or this is too good, let's turn around. So sabotaging your growth or your success. But it can also be the opposite of that, like always constantly chasing success in the next thing and thinking that you always need to be going bigger and better in order to feel like you're enough, in order to feel like you're relevant, in order to feel like people won't forget you or that you matter or you're really excellent at what you do. Another really big one that my clients tell me about a lot, and I have definitely felt this before, is thinking that you've tricked people into believing that you're good at what you do. And it's so weird and it's kind of edgy to admit this, but I have felt that so many times in my business. And I tell you what, I am one of the most fucking qualified coaches in the industry that I know of. At this point in time, I think I have 8 certifications and trainings. I'm doing another one like next week. I'm a continuous student. I love learning. I love adding more methods to my toolkit. That's always been a huge priority for me. And I'm also, like I said, someone who teaches things that I'm really experienced in, that I'm really embodied in. And so I literally have all the things that it takes to do what I do, to own the expertise that I use, that I, facilitate. And there's still that voice sometimes that's like, you've tricked people into thinking that you're good at this. So we know that it's not logical when we have thoughts like that, but it still feels real. It still feels very visceral in your body, right? It's kind of like this push-pull energy. This is how my clients sometimes describe it, that push-pull between, yeah, I kind of know that thought's not real, but also, oh my God, this thought is fucking me up today, and most of us have normalized this inner roommate in our head, and it also finds sneakier ways to show up for you the more inner work that you do and the more success that you create. So your inner imposter might not have the exact language as what I've described, but perhaps it says things to you like, you only got 10 people in your program. Oh my God, we need to get more. Like, that's not enough. Instead of going, wow, 10 people in my program, that would have been a dream for me 5 years ago. Wow, let's celebrate that. The imposter's like, that's definitely not enough. What are people going to think of that? You need to do better. Otherwise, people are going to find out that you're someone who's very untalented and not worthy because only 10 people wanted to join your program, right? Or it could be the part of you that gets on a call with your clients or gets on an Instagram live like this, and there's this part of you in the back of your mind like, oh my goodness, you just stumbled your words. You didn't say that very eloquently. Now they're going to think that you are literally a dumb bitch and you are not qualified to do what you do. Could be anything, but it's really good to track this and to understand when this shows up for you, because this part of us is typically going to show up in moments where you are growing, where you are on the leading edge of what you're doing, when you are becoming more and more successful. And what I don't want for you is for that to derail you for an entire year like it did for me. Bear in mind, I chose to take the year. I really felt like, okay, I'm taking something for the team here. I'm pretty sure that there's some really juicy wisdom in this that I'm going to teach maybe next year and the next few years. But it doesn't have to take you a year of stepping back from your business, from your revenue, in order to get that memo and to integrate the medicine of imposter syndrome as well, because there is medicine. There is something being revealed to you within this. But what most of us try and do, like I said with the manifestation example, is we try and add more in. How do I get more people in the program so I feel safe and validated? How do I get more followers so then I feel like, hey, people are taking me seriously and maybe they won't find me out or think that I'm a fraud? Or hey, how do I get more attention or more money or more people wanting me on their podcast, whatever it is? And it's okay to want those things. It's okay to want to grow on Instagram. It's okay to want to make money and have an abundant life, right? I'm an ambitious bougie bitch. We know this. It's okay to have those desires. But where it starts to become toxic, distorted, and it's going to fuck up your normal creativity, your flow, and your power is when it's coming from that sort of deep, shadowy place of I'm not significant and worthy as I am, and so I need to continuously be on this treadmill to throw more shit into my feeling of worthiness, to get more, to hoard more of this validation so that I feel safe for 5 minutes, or so I feel safe for the next couple of months, whatever it is. And when you know, the way that you know that this is like not coming from just pure desire, like an expansive dream, an expansive thing that you want, is when you're constantly achieving more and more, and then it's never enough. And there's always something that you're fixated on, and you kind of have this energy of, I will feel this when this happens. So it's like, I will feel like I've arrived when other people tell me that I have, when other people buy the thing, when other people look up to me, when other people share my shit, when other people finally recognize me. And you will feel powerful when those things happen. It's true, you will, but it's a different kind of power. It's conditional power. It's like, I'm powerful if these conditions are met. And then you get those conditions met, and then guess what happens? Oh, new conditions up here. And I'm not enough, and I'm not powerful until these new conditions are met. So sometimes I describe it as being on a treadmill, but how you might also feel it is like being on this never-ending ladder and you never get to the top. And you're always thinking, I need to get to the top. I'm not enough till I'm at the top. The top never arrives. So part of dealing with imposter syndrome and how I was really going through the trials and tribulations of this last year was coming back to unconditional power, which is inside. And it's so funny to me because the very first program that I ever created and the very first sort of template that I had when I was working with my first one-on-one clients was about this. Some of you might remember my first course. It was called Make Your Magic. People to this day still message me. They're still using it. I got one the other day from one of my clients, Gabrielle, and she was like, I'm still using this course years later. But in this course, it was essentially a program that was bringing you back to unconditional power inside and illuminating the ways that we focus so much on feeling powerful from the things outside of us. So getting power from money, getting power from men, getting power from people liking us, all of that stuff. And the core teaching was like that shaky power, because all of those things are volatile, right? Money comes and go, people come and go, looks come and go. You know, everything outside of you is not unconditional. It could be taken away for whatever reason at any time. But what can never be taken away is your sense of self-knowing. And it's free to work on that, to cultivate that. Of course, there are like non-free ways you can cultivate that, and different kinds of like therapies and tools you can use and coaching and stuff. But you always have the power to work on your internal power. And you always have the power to be the one who decides, I will not let anything outside of me dictate how I see myself. And when it does, I always have the choice to come back and remember who the fuck I am, and to strengthen the inner power again. And so it's so funny and such a full circle moment that I'm coming back and I'm essentially teaching again on the first thing that I ever taught, which is how to have unconditional power and how to have an unshakable self-knowing, which in turn leads to an unshakable voice. And the ironic thing is that when you have an unapologetic, unshakable voice and trust in who you are, you're way more likely to create incredible success on the outside. But that success doesn't dictate how you feel about yourself. So I feel like I'm in this beautiful full circle moment. And now I'm teaching the things that I've always taught, but with 7 years more experience and wisdom and many a trial and tribulation since. So with imposter syndrome, one of the healthiest things that you can do is to realize that imposter syndrome, which is intimately linked with perfectionism, beating that, healing that, dissolving that doesn't mean that you become complacent. This is really important for the entrepreneurs in the room to hear. Not being perfectionistic doesn't mean that you become complacent. The reason that's important for me to say is because most of you badass bitches, you boss babes, you entrepreneurs in the room, you are ambitious gals. You are ambitious. You're big dreamers. You're seekers. You're here to live a life that means something. You're here to live a life where at the end of your life, you're like, I was fucking here. And everybody knew it. So because that's one of your most sacred values, for most entrepreneurs it is, it then becomes a conundrum to be like, well, what do you mean I just like don't have like perfectionistic ambitions and standards? It's not about that, but you can strive to have high standards without having to be perfect all the time. Because the inner imposter, one of the ways that it shows up through perfectionism can be everything needs to be more perfect, better than that. Your best is never enough. It's a way to try and avoid danger and to get control. And why does that show up for very successful and ambitious people? Well, part of that desire for ambition can sometimes be rooted in that feeling of not being enough. But also, if you are always improving yourself, you know, it's very easy if you have those old perfectionistic patterns to come in and be like more, rather than being in that balance and that harmony of, I have high standards, I constantly want to improve myself, and also I'm going to celebrate how far I've come. And also, I'm going to stop and smell the roses here too. And also, I recognize that my best is different on every different day. And I recognize that I want to improve my life and push myself and challenge myself to be better. And I'm going to be compassionate and loving with where I am now too. So that kind of harmony and that kind of balance is only possible when you address this imposter syndrome and this perfectionism, which are essentially just protection mechanisms to try and keep you safe. And so how these protection mechanisms show up for a lot of entrepreneurs in the coaching world is by thinking, if I can just get more money, more, perfection, but in the form of income and money milestones and, different accolades, then maybe nothing bad's going to happen to me. But that kind of illusion gets shattered because the more visible that you become, the more unconventional you are, the more boldly you express yourself and you lead, and the more internet people's eyes are on you, you're never going to be fully safe. Because no one or nothing outside of you can fully make you feel safe. And it's more likely that people are going to criticize you the more visible you get. And the more powerful you get as a woman, it's definitely more likely, because our society still really doesn't like powerful women. As much as it's sort of celebrated and said, like, yeah, girl boss, powerful women. There's a lot of people who don't like powerful women. Still, there's a lot of people in the female empowerment industry who don't actually treasure other women and don't actually want to see them win. Or they do, but only to this level. So if you're on this journey and you are a big dreamer, you're ambitious, you want to be successful, you want to grow your coaching business, have a bold voice, be an incredible leader, this work around how you source your inner sense of safety and untangling yourself from this fucked up dialogue around, money almost being this thing to be worshipped outside of you, and it's going to be the thing that gives you everything you want and safety, and nothing bad is ever going to happen if you become this amount of money or get this amount of attention or get this amount of clients. That is an unhealthy and unrealistic paradigm. And your unconditional internal power is not going to come from those things. Those things can be great. I'm not dissing them. But what you're looking for beneath it all isn't going to come from external validation. The most powerful I've ever felt in my life has been when I'm like, so I'm quite a visual person, and I'm visualizing myself right now having walked through like a war zone of flames, and I'm like coming out the other side with a sword in my hand and a loaf of bread. And I'm like, here, everyone, here's this loaf of bread. Here's the wisdom that I have to give you after this. That's the most powerful that I feel when I've been through some shit, when the shit has hit the fan, and when I'm standing on the other side of it and I go, wow, I know myself as someone different for the way that I just handled myself through all of that fuckery. I'm so proud of the way that I overcame that adversity. I'm so proud of the way that I set that boundary, or the way that I led myself through that season of what the fuck. That's the moments where I feel most powerful, in that kind of very early aftermath, or when I'm in the thick of the flames. To me, that's where the power really gets solidified. And so I'm not saying that you have to always just be going through shit in order to be powerful. But what I am saying is, can we stop being so addicted and obsessed with life being easy all the time, and our power and our sense of self coming from things like money, success, how many people liked your thing, how many followers you have. How can we come back to really embracing all of it and doing the messy inner work that it takes to be someone who is in a job or in a vocation, like helping people? It's messy work to deal with people. How are you going to lead yourself through all of it? Not how much money did you make this month. Celebrate that too, but don't make that your North Star. Don't make that your North Star, because you will end up climbing that ladder that I said for a long, long time. And one day you'll wake up and you'll have all the money that you ever dreamed of, or all the things ticked off on the list. And if you didn't do the inner work to know who you are, to solidify that inner power on the way, you're going to be like, I've got all this shit and I don't know who I am. And I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I just wanted to share these pieces because it's on my heart at the moment. It's always on my heart. But also, like, I've been building the Burn the Rules curriculum. I've been launching the program for the early bird offer at the moment. It expires in about 7 hours, I think, the early bird, but it's open for a few more weeks. And in Burn the Rules, this is kind of the essence of what we're doing. We are burning down all the fucked up rules that you've been following that don't actually work for your design, that don't work for how you authentically operate in the world. So maybe you've picked up certain strategies from coaches about how to use your voice, or you've been operating by these internalized rules inside of your own psyche that says, I'm only allowed to say this when I've earned 6 figures, or I'm only allowed to step into this amount of audacity and power when other people tell me that I'm significant enough, when I get that many followers. I'll be confident and not doubt myself when this many people join my program or my email list. You know, I think there's a lot of people who are waiting for some destination in order to step into their fullest unapologetic self and voice. There are people who have amazing programs, medicine, work that is still living inside of them because they're playing by someone else's rules about when they're allowed to release it, when they're allowed to start sharing that part of themselves with the world. And so this program is basically like if a self-expression retreat had sex with a confidence course and a business program and a marketing program and a manifestation program. And also, like, I'm feeling like there's like pole dance class energy just infused in there. This program, if all of those things made love, it's this program, Burn the Rules. So it's deep healing around your voice, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, fucked up little beliefs that you're operating out of when it comes to money, your business, marketing. So it's that deep healing vibe, but it's also fun. It's also very action oriented. One of my favorite parts about the program is that every week we do Truth or Dare. Do you guys remember that game? So we do Truth or Dare, and you get to basically choose the pathway for your homework that week. So you can choose truth, which is more of like internal reflection, looking at something that's a bit ouch or a bit sticky and moving through it and healing it, reflecting on how you want to dissolve that thing or step into a new thing. And then we have dare. So if you select that, you're actually going out and you're doing something really daring on your Instagram or in your business, having a daring conversation. And those will be different every single week, but we play truth or dare every week. So that's one of my favorite parts of the program. We're also walking with 4 different muses in this program, and we will be dancing to their music, absolutely. So the first muse that we have for the first phase of the program is Miley Cyrus. And this is about unlearning and unshaming yourself. It's about meeting your inner good girl and looking at how is my inner good girl showing up in my business, in my mission, in my leadership and legacy. Then we have the second muse, which is Lana Del Rey. This phase is called Good Girl to Bad Bitch. So we're going to be looking at how you can turn your pain into power. We're going to be looking at how some of your most incredible messages and medicine and the things that you have to say can actually come from some of the most sticky, difficult, maybe even shameful memories and experiences that you have. And to me, this is the hallmark of badass leadership. It's like taking the crazy shit that happens to you and turning it into a gift for something else. And I really feel like Lana embodies that. So she's our second muse. The third muse we have is Madonna, because who else? So in this phase, we're letting people be wrong about us. This is one of my favorite guiding beliefs and statements or mantras, is let people be wrong about you sometimes. If you're going to be an unapologetic leader, if you're going to stand in your power and your authentic self-expression, there are going to be people who don't like it. There are going to be people who don't get it. There are maybe even going to be people who twist your words, who try and make you out to be the leading role in their drama, the villain, the hero, the rescuer, the one they put up on the pedestal and then drag off it, the mother, wanting to be mothered by you. And so this is all about just letting people be wrong about you and focusing on the people that you are here to help, focusing on your soulmate audience and clients rather than attracting wound mates in your audience and clientele. And then we have the last phase, the fourth phase, and our muse is Stevie Nicks. I hope most of you know Stevie Nicks, but if you don't, Stevie Nicks is a fucking icon. She is the lead singer of Fleetwood Mac. I believe they're still touring and she's in her 70s. She's a fucking badass. But Stevie has taught me so many different things about being an unapologetic woman. And she really was doing that, a long time ago, far before the female empowerment movement really was like taking rise in the mainstream. Interestingly, with Stevie, Fleetwood Mac didn't even want her in the band. She wasn't even meant to be in the band. And there's so many other stories about her that are so inspiring that I want to weave into the teachings and share with you. And I think they're just going to absolutely blow your inspiration, audacity, and voice through the roof. So she's our fourth muse, and I love her and I love her music. So yes, I am super excited for those of you who have already joined as early birds, and you get all these special bonuses. The bonuses altogether are worth more than the program. So yeah, that kind of says it all. And I'm going to pop the link in the comments here if you want to check it out. Even if you're like a smidge curious. Oh, it's not working. Let me type it. Even if you're a smidge curious, go and check out the sales page, because this sales page took me 30 days of straight work, all day work, to write and channel this sales page. And it's truly hilarious. I've had friends that have just messaged me saying this is the best website sales page I've ever seen. So even if you don't join, enjoy this sales page, because I went fucking feral on it. I don't know if that link's going to work, but it's amyrushworth.com/burntherules. And I think even just reading the sales page, I hope it inspires you to just be more audacious in how you show up, to see in motion the way that a woman with an untamed tongue and an open, empowered throat chakra, to see how that voice shows up online and breaks all the rules. That's really what this is all about. Freeing you from the dumb fucking rules that do not serve you and helping you tap into that really unshakable inner knowing inside of you. And to me, that's the most important thing in business. You can have every strategy, you can have every little hack under the sun, you can copy someone else's template of doing something, but if you don't feel powerful in who you are, the frequency is going to be off, or you're going to get the results and then you're not going to be able to hold it because your inner imposter hasn't been addressed, because you don't know who you are beyond that strategy. You're not saying the things that are genuinely coming through your channel that are meant to be shared with the world. And so people miss out on the true messages. So this program is about helping you get unrestrained from all of it so you can have the best 2023 ever in your biz And so that all the thousands of people that are going to work with you and their lives can be changed and can be uplifted and empowered in the way that I know that you would be hoping they will. Okay, my beauties, that's enough from me. I'm going to be going live lots more soon, probably again tomorrow, because this is also kind of like the last phase in my healing of imposter syndrome. If you've followed me or been in my community or my world for a long time, you will know that I used to go live all the time. I used to go live almost every day. And that was my main way of getting my message across, has always been through video, through speaking in the moment imperfectly and just sharing from the heart. But I really lost that in 2022. I really stepped back. I didn't want to be seen as much. And I was just kind of worried that people would pick my words apart or just think I was like offensive or whatever. And so I stepped back, but I'm now ready as part of my integrity and embodiment to step back forward. I'm ready to step back forward. I'm ready to imperfectly share my voice and to share my fuck ups and my learnings and just all the things on my heart that I want to share. So you'll be seeing more of me. I hope that you'll join me for more conversations. Remember, the early bird for Burn the Rules ends in, maths is not my strong suit, but I think it's 7 hours. It's 5 p.m. here and the early bird finishes at 11:59 p.m. So about 7 hours, I think. I will see you inside the program if you're joining. And I'll see you around. Love you guys.